I just read a great long article about focused on John Gottman, who's the marriage and in many ways relationship research guru of the last 40 years. It's in Psychology Today if you want to check the article out. Um, yeah, you should be able to search it online. What was the Oh, as I'm speaking to you here, I'll try to find the name of the article so you can check it out. We'll probably also hopefully post it near wherever you see this. Looks like the name of the article is The Einstein of Love. Anyways, phenomenal discussion. And one of the points that comes across was that what he's found over the course of 40 years of doing research into relationships and the things that make relationships work turns out, like one of the people being interviewed for the article mentioned, to be incredibly obvious things after you know that they're proven by research. When you look back, it seems clear that things like being available to your partner, being kind, not keeping score. They talk about having a communal type of attitude, meaning that you actually prioritize meeting your partner's needs, and as a result of succeeding at that, you feel good about yourself. And when both parties in a partnership have that attitude, it seems very obvious why things go well. And it's also such a self-reinforcing way of making the relationship great, because it feels good to meet the partner's needs, and so you do it, and so they feel great and they want to meet your needs, and that feels great. Same actually idea is talked about in this article with sex. Really, in some ways, this is a little different because it's counterintuitive if you look at it through the lens of the history of how we've thought about psychology. But the Gottman research suggests that if there's an imbalance in the interest in sex in a partnership, that the communal way of viewing it is that you actually you're having the sex even if you don't feel like it, to meet your partner's needs. And take this all with a grain of salt, because we're talking about within certain limitations where this approach, this strategy works in a healthy way. But one of the consequences of just doing it, apparently, is that we enjoy it because we're doing it to meet our partner's needs, and that makes us feel good, and then that's tied into wanting to have more sex. And so the recovery back to your previous levels of sexual interest actually it accelerates by virtue of just doing it, for all of those reasons. And so it's interesting in the cases where you may be used to have more of an appetite, more interest with your partner, and you're in a lull now for whatever reason, that habit, that willingness to just do it for your partner, can actually end up bringing you back to an interest level that you previously had, where you were really happy. So all sorts of really interesting things in a relationship. The main pull from the Gottman research for years has always been that he established a mathematical ratio of positive emotions to negative emotions in relationship. And one way that he teaches and thinks about that 5-to-1 ratio, it needs to be 5 positive to 1 negative to maintain an amazing relationship, because as human beings, our physiology is set up to recognize and imprint the negative much more powerfully than the positive, for a whole host of what we believe are biologically developed reasons that are core to keeping us safe as a species, and having those habits that enable us to survive and procreate. So anyway, in relationship, that means a 5-to-1 positive emotion to negative emotion in a relationship is ideal. And again, back to the way that that can be done, um, you just think about the 5-to-1 ratio of positive interactions versus negative interactions in a relationship, and consider that all interactions, whether they're verbalized interaction or a nonverbal interaction, a reaching out to say hello, a touch on the shoulder as you walk by, a kiss on the cheek. These are all interactions. So when you have a 5-to-1 ratio of positive to negative in those types of interactions that occur throughout the day, then you are right in the sweet spot of cultivating an amazing relationship. And you need to keep doing it, because as that ratio wears out, then so does the relationship. Anyways, a big shout out and thanks to John Gottman for all his work over the years and his passion and dedication to really doing something that's extremely difficult, which is putting science and math to relationship, because there are so many variables. And because of the way that Dr. John Gottman went about doing his research in a very creative and mathematical and scientific way, he's just produced some incredible information that gives us insight into the dynamics of relationship, what makes them work, and what some real general and applicable principles as to what works and what doesn't over the course of time. So, with that, let's continue right now with some mind exercise.